Camilla, how you doing today?
Hi Tina, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to chat with you. I want to start with the fact that it's been a year since Maggie and Eddie have seen each other, and I think that those first words that you say to somebody after you haven't seen them in so long are so important. So I'm curious, without if you don't want to spoil it, that's fine. But how long did it take you to sort of develop what you wanted that first interaction between the two of them to be, and how you think it sets the tone for the rest of the season?
I always wanted it to be really big. I didn't want it to be that they just like walk into a room or they bump into each other and we don't take the time it needed. I didn't want to rush through it. I had a bunch of different ideas for it, but in every idea, it was like time should feel like it stands still outside of that look to each other. I think it
Mhm.
was the look that I was really wanted that. And I kind of it when I wanted the second series to either start like a day after the last series or a year. I didn't want
Mm.
anything in between those things. And the year ended up just feeling a lot better. And I think it's all about where do you start? It's such a massive thing. They've been away. This person that's so important to you has been away, like out of contact for a year. And I think Maggie just feels has had like a kind of lonely year as well. And I think you even when someone like that who is so important to you, even when you're not in a good place with them, you still can't help but feel so happy to see them because that's someone you know so well and you trust them so much, and you've got all this history together. I always wanted it to be a really big moment, and I think that the setting of the episode really helps with that, like having a sort of gothic literature energy running through it and
Mhm.
everything feeling a little bit more heightened, and the costumes kind of brings in this sort of theatrical drama which I really liked for that moment.
Yeah. And one of the lines from last season that really stuck out to me and that like comes up again in the recap early on is the Eddie saying that I fix problems, you have them. And I'm so curious how you do you feel like that was a fair assessment for her to have last season? And do you think it still holds true for the journey that they're going to go on this season?
I think really when Eddie says that, what she should be saying is like, I am a problem. The way I see problems is I like to find solutions and then follow that solution. That's what
Mhm.
she's saying, but instead she's kind of putting it on Maggie. They're different people, and I really think that Eddie's not great at like diving into gray areas and diving into her own feelings. I think she wants a solution and she wants to find it, and I think that's what she thinks she's doing with Whitney. Like her,
Mhm.
the grief at her dad, everything, losing the bar, everything that's happened with Maggie. I think that is a lot for someone like Eddie to face. I
Mhm.
don't think they're good at it. I don't think they want to. I don't think they like to be in that position. And I think to her, Whitney is a solution to a problem. And actually, I think Maggie and Eddie help each other in lots of ways. And you see Maggie in this series trying to help Eddie and ultimately kind of succeed and be a hero. It's just that her way of doing things is different and it's coming from a different mind, a different like way of thinking. I think that there's so many ways that you can be a good friend and so many ways that you can support someone, and they look different depending on who the person is. So I don't think it was fair for Eddie to say it because I think it was an oversimplification and actually just a reflection of how she deals with problems rather than anything else. But I also think that being friends and being like, part of the close support circle for someone with mental illness can be really draining. And sometimes you can't be super perfect in your responses to it.
Yeah. And you bring up Whitney, who is this character who's kind of this like wellness guru. And I think it's a really interesting sort of angle to take on the emotional growth for Eddie, because I think wellness has like two sides of darkness and a lot of light. So I'm curious, was it always this wellness path that you were interested in exploring with this character?
Specifically, the kind of the words I had on my like whiteboard wall for this series was like
Mhm.
healing versus healing,
Mm.
and authentic healing or authentic recovery, and this like commodification of it, being told you can buy it, and
Mhm.
how those things look. There's no path to happiness and there's no path to emotional well-being as much as people love to try and sell you the idea that there is one. And actually I think Maggie is on an authentic path to being not to recovering from what happened to her and to reckoning with her mental illness and finding a way to live with it. I think she's on a kind of authentic path with that. And Eddie isn't, Eddie tries to Eddie tries to take a shortcut to it. And I was interested in exploring those things. And yeah, that was kind of that's how I got to the wellness angle. And I think it can be frustrating. I think it's easy to take the piss out of like wellness and the wellness industry. There's obviously like a lot of good in there, and there's a lot of like good ways to go about it, but there's so many charlatans, and they profit off people's weaknesses, and I find that pretty reprehensible. So I kind of also wanted to have a look at that.
Yeah. And then can you talk a little bit about the casting process to find somebody to portray Whitney, who is this sort of like you said, distillation of this whole bigger issue?
Yeah, which was not easy.
Yeah.
It's a character that walks a bit of a line. I think with a less talented actor, it would be a harder sell. It's Whitney's quite a big character. She can be really extreme, and she says quite ridiculous things at times. But you also really wanted to believe her as someone that Eddie would have kind of fallen in love with and started and believed, you know, and as someone that is good at getting people on her side. And so it wasn't an easy casting. It wasn't like we've met one person, but the minute we met Hannah, I felt like she got the character so well, and she's such a smart actor, and I think you see that in her performance this series. She sells moments that I think are not easy to sell as an actor, but she really always landed on the tone so perfectly. She was just a joy to work with. She's such a good actor.
Yeah. And your director, Rebecca, has returned for this series, which is, I'm sure, very exciting. How do you feel like your working relationship has developed and allowed for you to go for maybe something bigger in terms of this series than last?
I think that when I wrote the first series, I obviously hadn't met Asher, the director. And so I knew the sort of director I wanted. And it's unusual for a British show to hire an American director because of like the logistics of it, right? But my taste is quite, I think that the tone of the show, I think, is maybe a little bit more like an American comedy than a British. I knew that was the right sort of person. And once I'd worked with Asher on a series, the first series, I realized that we're quite different people, but we have the exact same taste. So I knew that I could push things a bit more, and she would go with it, and I would know to trust her to not push it too far. And I know that she would tell me if I was trying to push it too far. I think when you have a really good, I love working with one person. I like having a director that I work with. I know it's like more common that you have multiple directors. I think for me, it's very important to have a close relationship with my director, because it feels like you're not alone. If there's two of you like handling this together, you both really care about it, and you're both looking after it so you kind of feel like parents. And the more you trust each other, the more you can push things. And also, Rebecca is an incredibly experienced, skilled director who's done a million amazing things. And I was like, well, we got to go big. We got to do more fun stuff, because we've got her. Like, she can do anything. She can, you know, the restrictions on time and budget in a show like Big Mood, that can sometimes feel restrictive, but she always finds a way to make it work, which I just find it's great to work with.
Yeah. My last question, Eddie and Maggie, they get into hijinks all the time. It's so much fun. What is a dream scenario that you know you could never write into Big Mood that you would love to see them have to deal with?
That is such an interesting question. God, what is the answer to that? That's really exciting. I mean, there's so many things that you just can't get away with in TV for like financial reasons. Yeah. The first series, there's a pagan festival that was actually meant to be set at a real pagan festival that in my hometown. I think I would love to travel with them a bit and see them in another place, like another country. I would think it would be great to go on holiday with them. Yeah. But again, that's a lot of money that, like, you know, we don't always have. And it would be cool to see them totally out of their like normal area. So yeah, maybe go somewhere completely different to London and see how they do.
Yeah.
It would
go ahead.
Sorry, that was just a sunburn Irish skin joke.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited for people to see the second series. It's so much fun and so beautiful.
That's so kind.
Thank you. You have a great rest of your day.
And you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.